Welcome to Wealth Strategies Unleashed with Concenture Wealth Management. I'm Robert Gilliland.
And I'm Karen Hyder.
Awesome. Hey, so we've kind of started this tradition, Karen, and I think we've got to keep it going. I'm just curious, any good jokes to kind of get started?
Okay, I've got a good one. We'll see how many of you guys get this one.
We will be the judge of that.
Okay. So the other day, I took my nephew to the movie theater. We walked in, looked up, looked at the ceiling, kind of had some of these little decorative things on it. And I looked up and I said, it's a nice ceiling. Not the best one I've ever seen, but it's up there. That's good, right? He didn't get it. Went straight over his head.
Oh, she just kicked it up 2 notches.
It's hard to follow that one.
Well, in the tradition of today's podcast, and you being so giving, let's talk about this. You know, and where this idea kind of came from is that we were meeting just last week with a client that is very charitably inclined, and we were talking about philanthropy, right? And to them, part of the issue was the tax benefits with it, but the ultimate goal of their philanthropy was it's not a tax strategy.
Exactly.
It is a tax benefit, right? So we've bumped into in another conversation I just had last week with a client that was they've got income a little bit more than what they need she's currently retired. It's more money than what she needs, and she wants to make sure money's left to her kids, but she also wants to make a difference with some things that are very important to her. What are some things that people can think about? Let's talk about some things that people can be thinking about if they are charitably inclined.
Yep, so there's a couple different good strategies out there, and like you said, again, these are not pure tax strategies, but these are ways to maximize your financial giving or your philanthropic giving. So I think the first one that we talk about is donor advised funds.
How do they work?
Yep, so this is where you look at how much you typically give charitably on a yearly basis, and you can take that amount and put up to 5 years of that dollar amount into a donor advised fund and take the deduction up front in that year that you put those funds there.
So where this strategy actually works is someone who has an extraordinary tax year. I got this massive bonus, or something happened where I've got this massive gain or massive amount of income. And so what they could do, hypothetically, if they traditionally, between the different charities, whether that be churches or colleges or other philanthropic things, they give $20,000. They could actually go and write a check into this donor advised fund for $100,000, get that full deduction, and then continue. Then in years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, write the checks for $20,000.
Yep, and you still maintain control of how much you're going to give that year and to who those funds are going to give, but it is an irrevocable gift. So once you put those funds in the donor advised fund, you can't take them back, but you have the flexibility to continue to give those funds to those charities that you're used to in the amount that you want to.
But it's key that if in year 3, using that original example, you're writing that check for $20,000, it's key to know that you don't get that $20,000 deduction at that point.
Exactly. So you're maximizing the deductions all in that first year, trying to offset some big event.
The other thing that we've seen, that especially when it comes to required minimum distributions, right? And if someone has to take more out of their IRA than what they actually need to live on, that's a taxable event.
Yep.
One of the things that they can do is they can do a qualified charitable distribution. So if my required minimum distribution was $20,000 more than what I actually needed, and quite frankly I didn't want to pay tax on it, I could do $20,000 directly to a qualified charity.
Yep. And the key being directly. So you cannot take the funds out of the retirement account make it to yourself and then write a check to the charity. It has to go directly from the account to the charity to qualify. And the other place where this makes a lot of sense is for somebody whose assets are, for the most part, say 95% of their assets are in a qualified retirement account. Even if you're not yet to your required minimum distribution age, as long as you're over 70 and a half, if you're charitably inclined, taking the funds directly from their retirement account to the charity as a QCD, qualified charitable distribution, that allows you to not have to pay taxes and satisfies your charitable giving that you wanted to have happen.
Yeah, we see these first two happen quite a bit.
Yes.
There is another one that can get to be very complex, and it's called a charitable remainder trust.
Talk us through that one.
That one is, it's an irrevocable gift into a tax exempt trust. The monies then can be distributed out to charities, but income inside of that can go to non-charitable beneficiaries.
Okay.
Generally speaking, to set up a charitable remainder trust, where that makes sense is that if you have significant assets, when I say significant, I mean north of the unified credit exemption for estate planning. So to now it's roughly $23 million, right, for a household. So the thing is that the charitable remainder trust, all the money goes into the trust. Income comes out to beneficiaries, and then when the trust ceases to exist, generally at a death, all of the assets go to whatever charity or charities that are named, okay, to offset there. This is a very complex strategy that you need attorneys and accountants and sophisticated planning on. We get into that with clients where it's appropriate. We don't see it as often because there are other ways to go in and do that. The other thing is foundations and scholarships.
Yeah, I feel like we hear a lot about that just in the news and other places. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple things on that. If you have significant assets and you're wanting to set up the Karen Hyder Foundation for teaching cats how to weave baskets underwater. You can set up a foundation to go through and do it. There's a lot of legal things that come in, so you're going to need attorneys to be involved. You're going to need accountants to be involved. You're going to need your wealth management team there to kind of go through to help and do that. You can do a lot of good and do something that lasts into perpetuity. There's a lot of really good things. It's a way to build the underwater cat basket weaving, not cat underwater basket weaving charities out there that you can go through and do, and it's a way to go through to create a really significant legacy. Same would be true with setting up scholarships. In fact, this is a story that one of our clients wanted to honor her late husband, and when she called and says, "Hey, look, I want to put some money. I want to honor my late husband, and this is what I want to do," and it was relatively specific for the people and where they were. And she thought that she wanted to set up a foundation, but the foundation was to go to fund a scholarship. Well, for most people, if they're charitably inclined and want to kind of go to create that legacy, there are a lot of mechanisms out there to go and do it in the form of scholarships, right? When you have a foundation, there's a lot of administrative stuff that has to continue with it, so a lot of people may choose not to do that. Scholarships, one of the things you can do is there are community organizations that set those up, and so it could be something like the Mason, Texas Charitable Foundation or Scholarship Foundation that you can go and work with them to set a scholarship up for everyone who's in Mason County.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then you can determine what it is, and they'll have their withdrawal rates. Or if you have a university like Harvard of the Piney Woods, Stephen F. Axum, you can get in touch with the university. Generally speaking, those universities, we had another client who did this with University of Houston, another client who did it with Colorado School of Mines, another client did it with Wyoming, and that is you contact them and say, I want to set a scholarship up. Generally speaking, it's about $25,000. The scholarship amount that goes to the student is generally a 4% withdrawal rate. Okay. And so if you do $25,000, that means it's going to be an annual scholarship of $1,000 that's going to be able to be awarded. But you can work with the university to determine what your requirements are. Right? So if we wanted to set one up again at Harvard at the Piney Woods, Stephen F. Austin, Axum, you could do that. And if you wanted it to be only for people who were graduating with a focus in financial planning, you could make it for someone in there. You can be as specific as you want inside there. It also is the one thing, if you go to outside organizations to set up a foundation or a scholarship, the one thing you have to be really aware of is their internal operating expenses.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's going to eat away at the longevity of that money. So when clients call us and they say, hey, I'd really like to set a scholarship up, generally speaking, what I think makes the most sense is to work with the university.
I can see why. That makes sense.
And foundations just end up kind of being an expensive thing, and you might as well let them, when it comes to scholarships, you might as well let them be responsible for the reporting and the taxes and the fiduciary responsibility on that, as opposed to you. What other thoughts do you kind of have when it comes to philanthropy or gifting?
I think we've covered the main strategies. I think this is an important topic because I think a lot of people want to be able to give something back to others. So making sure that you're doing it in the most efficient way, that we've said it's not a tax strategy, being cognizant of what the best way to accomplish your goals while also maintaining your own plan and keeping you on track absolutely makes sense. And I think that's where working with an advisor to talk through the differences and which of these strategies that we've talked about really makes the most sense for you can be helpful.
Yeah, the reality is that people who are charitably inclined want to make a difference. You want to be as efficient as you possibly can in making that difference and doing it the right way so as not to derail your plan, but also make a big impact.
Exactly.
Is what the key is. Well, awesome. Hey, thank you.
Definitely.
And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Wealth Strategies Unleashed with Concenture Wealth Management.
See you next time.